Ghana security and defense forces have taken up positions along the border with Burkina Faso following weeks of terrorist violence in nearby communities of the neighboring country. The terrorists were said to have launched their attacks targeting pro-government militia forces who were recently recruited to support the Burkinabe security forces in the fight against terrorism. These attacks in the southeastern Bulgo province have pushed hundreds of displaced Burkinabes across the border into Ghana for refuge, raising fears that the militias who are being sought after by terrorists might have joined the fleeing civilians to Ghana. My colleague Aisha has more.
Over the past 2 weeks, increasing jihadist aggressions in southeastern Burkina Faso have pushed hundreds of Burkinabes across the border into Ghana. These displaced Burkinabes are said to have come from communities in the Zouaga department, where armed men linked to the Jinem terrorist group have since the beginning of this year allegedly launched coordinated attacks targeting the security and defense forces, including the civilian auxiliary forces known as VDPs or Kugluego. The terrorists were said to have attacked the border communities of Zerboko, Yoga, Zebere and Zoga, where they looted and in some cases set ablaze a police station and also ordered the people to end any cooperation or collaboration with the state security forces or face collective punishment the next time they return. Panicked by the terrorist invasion, these Burkinabes decided to flee to Ghana for protection, with most of them arriving in the Upper East regional border village of Wenaba near Zebila in the Boku West municipality.
They came to a place called Zerboko. There's a mining place where they came on Friday. Before the Friday prayer, they occupied the place, according to what he heard from the people. And they have guns, they have motorbikes and everything. They talk to the people that want those who have the guns, that they heard that there are some people here have collected the guns. They want them and the soldiers.
They
are holding guns, killing people, doing whatever they want without persecution or without law. So that is why they came there. And some people tell us that they are killing people and the people are all running, and I also run. And as they come to Widnaba here to save my life and my family's.
According to officials in the region, over 2,000 new arrivals were recorded in the past weeks, in addition to about the same number already in the region since July of last year. This Fulani settlement on the outskirts of Winaba village is one of the locations hosting the displaced Burkinabes. There are about 120 refugees here, mostly women and children, including this 90-year-old woman and weeks-old babies. This 70-year-old woman said she was brought here by her children after the attack by the terrorists.
Okay, I heard that there's a people who come, they're killing people. And my people took me and ran and come and leave me here.
This woman also fled from Zouaga with 14 of her children.
They came there at Zouaga, and we heard that they go and face the soldiers or the police, and they all also run and they go and burn their police station, and the people from all Zouaga are running, and that's why we also run and come here.
It was observed that the refugees here, since their arrival more than 2 weeks ago, have been sleeping under trees alongside their belongings with no decent shelter. Ilyasu Tanko reporting from Wenaba on the border with Burkina Faso for JoyNews.
The Upper East Regional Security Council held an emergency meeting with top security commanders of the National Special Forces on the ground to reassess the situation along the border. Correspondent Ilyasa Tanko, currently at the border, interacted with a top member of the Regional Security Council and has joined us with more. Ilyasu, bring us up to speed on this latest development.
Well, what we know is that there is a heightened security along the borders with Burkina Faso. This as a result of the influx of displaced Burkinabés across the border into Ghana. Our understanding is that a Security Council meeting has been held with various stakeholders, including members of the Fulani community in this particular area. And the Security and Defense Forces on the ground, Operation Conquer Fist and Operation Calm Life Men, we understand have begun patrols along the borders, including 9 patrols. And we also understand that there is an arrangement for the forces to get air support if the need arises in that particular area. So yes, there has been an intensification of security activities along the borders following the coming in of Burkinabés who have been displaced by terrorist violence in their communities.
How are the residents taking this? Are they comfortable with the situation?
This is the main concern that residents, especially those in the Winaba community, where we have many of the Burkinabés refugees coming in, are sharing with us. They are overwhelmed by the number of people coming in from the neighboring country. And because of the news that the terrorists are hunting the VDPs or the pro-government militias in the community, and the fears that these government militias could follow these civilians who are fleeing the violence into the country. There are fears that the security should intensify, that these pro-militia government could also find their way into the country. And so the community members who are hosting these refugees, Stapelega, Winaba, Banse, they are all calling for permanent security presence in their communities to ensure that the terrorists will not carry out any inroad operation to chase the pro-government militias who are believed to have followed the fleeing civilians into the country. So there's wide fears. Also, they are also concerned about resources in the area being stretched as a result of the presence of the refugees. Access to water, especially in the Winaba community, has become very scarce. And also food. As we understand, the residents are saying they are running out of food because some of these refugees are their members or their family members who have come in, so they are compelled to give them food. And so the residents are calling for security presence and also supplies, food supplies, as well as shelter for the refugees in the area.
Elias Tanko is our man at the border monitoring this for us. Definitely will bring you more on this. But today is the deadline for institutional and individual bondholders to sign up to the controversial domestic debt exchange program. Already, banks, insurers, and securities association have agreed to sign on. The only group still without an agreement are individual bondholders. A tweet from the Finance Ministry yesterday promised to soon present what it called a better offer to individual bondholders. With just hours to go, that offer is yet to come. Convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum, Senor Hossi, says all affected individual bondholders should not sign up as their old bonds remain valid.
We encourage everybody to just feel free. Go about your regular duties. Be assured your government is committed towards its obligations towards you. There's not going to be any discrimination between old bonds and new bonds. The other bit that we have stated clearly in our position is that we do not agree with the sense that the minister has about the tradability and the liquidity of our old bonds when the new bonds come. The economic fact of it is that the old bonds are going to be economically superior, legally superior. So it's going to be a lot more sought after than I think the new bonds will. So we encourage everybody, if you want to keep it, you are safe.
Professor Lord Mensah of the University of Ghana Business School has been providing some insights into today's deadline and its implication on government's IMF deal. He spoke on the AM show.
A meeting that the ministry had with the individual bondholders, we don't really know what has come out of it. But then I can tell you that the government needs the buy-in of some of these individual, bondholders to get this bond through, this exchange through. I mean, if we should go by the target that was set, as we speak now, we know the government has gotten the buy-in of the the banks. And then together with the Bank of Ghana, and looking at the annual debt report of 2021, I think the government should go through by 50% of the target if we should go by the numbers then. And so effectively, if the target was 80% to declare the entire exercise a successful one, then the government still needs, more funds to declare. And it is expected that at least you may not get everybody to get your buy-in. But then the question is, when the bond exchange goes through and the interest rate structures that prevail on the market, would you be holding a valuable bond? Those are the questions you may have to ask. So effectively, I'm looking at it from the financial sense. I may not want to go into the law, sense to say whether I agree with the individual bondholders or not. The whole exercise is an exercise which is more of a national exercise. At the end of the day, if you don't buy into it, which normally we term it as a free rider situation, you ask yourself, the bond that you are holding at the time, would it be, valuable on the market? Because at that time, long-term bonds interest rate will be selling at the prevailing rate of the exchange, which we are looking at 10% thereabout.
Away from the domestic debt exchange program, the Callable Doctors Association is threatening to withdraw its services if the Callable management does not come out with a clear timeline for the payment of arrears. The group also wants the payment to be centralized and not department-based. It says failure to do so will lead to its members withdrawing their services from the outpatient department as well as elective surgeries and procedures. Beginning February 6, 2023, extracts of a roadmap released this morning reads, and it's coming on your screens shortly. It says, at an emergency meeting held on the 29th January 2023, the following observations were made. One, that management of Callable Teaching Hospital has exhibited bad faith by failing to meet the agreed deadline on the Memorandum of Understanding signed between the Ghana Medical Association and the Ministry of Health regarding the 13th month salary payment. That management of Callable Teaching Hospital refused to heed to the concerns of the letter, the content dated 13th December 2022 from Callable Doctors Association not to make any unilateral payment of 25% of the arrears unless a clear timeline for payment for the rest of the arrears has been agreed upon. That management refused to meet its own deadline of reverting with timelines for the settlement of outstanding amounts by 27 January 2023 and captured in its letter to CODA dated 3rd January. So in view of the above, it says beginning of 30th January to 5th February, it expects management to come out with clear timelines for the payment and arrears to make this payment a centralized one. Well, I've been joined by Chairman of the Callable Doctors Association, Dr. Franco Uso-Setra. He actually signed the letter. I'm grateful for your time, Doc. I kindly want you to help us understand your concerns, reasons why you're threatening to withdraw your services. Hello, Doc.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear, Doc.
All right. So it will be remembered that somewhere in 2022, I think the early part of 2022, part of the conditions of service for public doctors, the Ghana Medical Association, as well as the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Labour and Employment, in attendance was the National Labour Commission, went into an agreement regarding the rolling out of the conditions of service. No, it was done in phases. So initially there was some fuel and the car maintenance and the rest. And then came the turn of the 13th month salary, which is the basic salary to be paid to every doctor in the public sector at the end of the year. So more of like end of year inducement or end of year gratuity, so to speak. And this was supposed to have taken effect in 2020 2021 and 2022. Because of maybe some issues, the decision was taken that the payment should be made by the facility. Right away, we knew that was going to be a challenge. We raised that issue, and the ministry assured us that before this MOU was signed, every manager concerned was at the meeting, was given the opportunity to go back, look at their inflows, so that the deadlines that will be paid or that came to be was something that all parties had agreed to. So if you look at the memorandum of understanding, they were supposed to have paid the arrears of 2020 and 2021 by end of December 2022. And in 2022, the arrears will be paid by June 2023. And this is something that we have all been working with. It said that soon after other facilities, I think we all remember Companoche went on strike. And there was an arrangement that started paying them. Those of us in Callable, looking at the situation, decided to give management time so that they can look at their inflows and then give us realistic time. So based on their own promises, they said by December 2022 they were going to pay. And despite some agitations and the rest, he said, okay, so far as we haven't reached for you the timeline, there is no reason why we shouldn't try. So we gave them the opportunity to make do with the promise that they have made. Unfortunately, come December 2020, that they're supposed to pay, we all know the economic downturn and the rest. So they look at their inflows and they say they'll be able to pay only 25% of the entitlement. And they said that is okay. You can do 25%. But what about area, a timeline? So you need to give us a clear timeline so that if we take a decision, we know that, yes, you have looked at your inflow, this is what you can do. At this time, I'm going to give you this. Maybe 3 months down the line, I'll give you another bit. So that you have a clear line which is going to keep the terrain quiet. You're not going to have anybody going up and the rest. And that is what we were working with. We had an agreement. The CEO sent a letter that by 27th of January, it was going to give us a tax. Then comes 27th of January, another letter is written, no clear indication of the timeline. So the impression or the consensus, we had a meeting on the 29th, and the consensus is that they don't think that the hospital is serious about the payment. And so we need to maybe go the consultative way, or maybe since reasonableness hasn't achieved anything, maybe we should use muscle power. And that is what culminated in the roadmap that we have seen. I'm not very sure how you got to know of it, but that letter was there. Sent only this morning, so I'm kind of shocked. This is what I got us to do.
But Doc, so between February 6th and February 10, you say if your demands are not heeded to by management, you would withdraw your services. Wouldn't this be against the rules, the labor laws regarding workers providing essential services?
Well, I think it is also against the labor law to vary people's conditions of service. There are kind of some grievances. And I think, if you remember, since you have been in the media, you remember Companoche, they reduced their services somewhere in, I think, March or April. And they were paid. And there was that agitation for us to also follow suit, because that seems to be the only language people understood, which I thought was going to be an indictment if we went that way. We are all reasonable people. We should be able to sit and discuss. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like when you sit and you come out with what do you think are solutions or maybe timelines, whereas you meet your side of the bargain, the other person doesn't. So unfortunately, if we're talking about legality, you can't vary my conditions of service to my detriment, and we are also essential service. So we should also be mindful of that. And I believe that it has some well over 8-9 months, we have tried to give due process opportunity. So maybe this question must be posed at the authorities, management, I believe. How come 8-9 months down the line, they still haven't been able to even come out with kindness? We're not saying give us everything. I mean, we are reasonable people, like we're saying. But we can't, it can't be a take it or leave it affair. It's like, this is what we can take it. The rest, I don't have any information on that. I don't think that is the way we manage things, especially in the public sector.
But Doc, you are available for further engagement if you are invited by management.
Absolutely. That's how come we're given 1 week. So if you read the letter, I'm not sure which letter you have, but if you read it, you will see that we've given, the meeting was held on the 29th, which was Sunday. So this whole week is supposed to provide a venue for engagement so that we don't escalate. If there is going to be an escalation, that is the withdrawal of outpatient care as well as the elective surgery and the rest. That is going to happen within next week. And I believe that if we are really serious and we need to nip this one in the bud, we should be able to sit down and arrive at the consensus so that we don't get to a stage where everybody is uncomfortable.
We'll see how that goes. I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Franco Uso-Sechere is chairman for the Callable Doctors Association. Now, for the second time, a scheduled NDC Minority Caucus meeting to address tensions within the caucus has been postponed. This meeting became necessary following the removal of the Haruna Idrisu, Muntaka Mubarak, and James Klucha Veji leadership of the caucus with the appointment of Dr. Atofosen as the new leader. Some 70 NDC MPs have kicked against the decision and have called for its rescission. Party leaders were expected to meet the caucus today to iron out these issues, but has been postponed indefinitely. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante is learning more and has joined us with details. Kweku, first, what are we learning as the reason for the postponement of this meeting?
So, Aisha, like you said, this is the second time that this meeting, which is expected to iron out the key issues that both sides of this divide have been putting forth, should have been dealt with, but it could not come true because, as we know, the Council of Elders of the party, who have received a petition from more than 70 NDC MPs calling for a rescission of that decision taken to remove Haruna Idrisu, James Klucha Veji, and also Muntaka Mubarak from leadership, have been trying to meet MPs to try and settle this matter. And so some meetings already have taken place. You know that Parliament is expected to resume next week, Tuesday. So the NDC has barely a week to be able to dispose of this matter. And so what we are told and what we are learning from sources very close to the matter is that the important persons on the Council of Elders of the NDC are trying to meet all sides of this divide. They are expected to meet the new leadership who have been appointed by the party, meet the leadership led by Haruna Idrisu, as well as the individual NDC MPs who had put out a position that they were not in support of this appointment. And so these meetings are going to go on until the time that some amicable solution is reached before the caucus can meet ahead of Parliament in June.
So we know also that Council of Elders has commenced meetings on the matter. You rightly indicated. Tell us more about that.
So this morning, our understanding is that the meeting is currently going on. There are some individual NDC MPs who are very vociferous in putting out a claim that they did not support these changes that were made because no consultations had been done by the party. And so people like Edward Bawa, NDC MP for Bongo, someone like Honorable Ibrahim Muhammad, and Dr. Ayini, Cletus Abokar. These are all MPs who are leading the minority caucus, the position that this decision should be stepped aside until some consultations are made. So these MPs are making their representations to the Council of Elders before the Council of Elders will now schedule a meeting with the party leadership and all other interested stakeholders to be able to iron out these issues ahead of Parliament resuming next week.
But we also understand, Kweku, that the Cocoa Board CEO says he's having sleepless nights over damage being done by Galamsey to cocoa farms as he appeared before the Public Accounts Committee. Tell us more about that.
Right, so according to Mr. Edu, who is appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, the specific issue with Galamsey is in such a way that it is going to affect Cocoa Board. And he says that cocoa board or the cocoa sector is the backbone or the oxygen of the Ghanaian economy. And the rate at which galamsey is debilitating farmers. Farmers are selling their lands to galamseyers. Farmers are unable to do their business in the way they want to do so. It is going to affect cocoa board and Ghana's cocoa yields in the long term. He's actually predicting that at this rate, in the next 30 years or 50 years, Ghana will have to import water from outside for consumption. He said that galamsey is increasing the cost of cocoa farmers. Cocoa farmers have had to, as it were, take out water from very far places to their farms to be able to water their produce. And so this is something that is affecting their yield. And he wants some concerted efforts of both Parliament, the executive coming on board to deal with this issue before galamsey completely does some heavy blow to Ghana's cocoa sector.
Cocoa Asante's Parliamentary Affairs correspondent. Definitely will bring you more from Parliament in our subsequent bulletins. Now, the Ministry of Education introduced a new curriculum in 2019, but to date, many schools are yet to receive the required number of textbooks. In December 2022, many schools in the Krachin-Chumburu district had not received the textbook for the new curriculum. In today's edition of Ghana Schools of Shame, JoyNews' features editor Jojo Kobna checked over 20 schools in the district and found that teachers have received textbooks for only 3 subjects from basic 1 to 6.
We are not sparing any efforts to make education in Ghana of the best quality and fit for the needs of the 21st century. In September 2019, a new standard-based curriculum will be rolled out from kindergarten to class 6 in primary schools. This curriculum is drawn upon the best practices from all over the world and will focus on making Ghanaian children confident, innovative, creative thinking, digitally literate, well-rounded patriotic citizens.
That statement was made on 20th February 2019, 3 years after the introduction of the new curriculum. Many basic schools operated without textbooks. Many education stakeholders expressed concerns about no textbooks in the classrooms. The Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, was compelled to answer questions in Parliament on why the textbooks had delayed.
We're going to do everything possible to make sure the textbooks are there. That is why this time I was careful not to give you a date, because I know my colleague will come and quote me. But all that I can assure you of is that we're at a critical stage where the quality assurance is being done so that I don't have a situation where some T's are not crossed and I's are not dotted to get into trouble with my honorable colleague. So, Mr. Speaker, all that I can say is that the final stage is what we have done now, quality assurance, and our textbooks are going to be available in the classroom.
In July 2022, the government printed and supplied textbooks to schools. My colleague, Papania Ashali, met the Deputy Education Minister, Reverend Intim Fojo, and asked when all schools will receive the textbooks.
And so we are monitoring and ensuring that the delivery, printing, delivery, distribution must continue as effective at the speed that we are seeing it now. And we are very optimistic that even before the 90-day period, every school and every child will have the required number of books to support their effective learning.
Salam Branter, who is Vice President at the Mani Center for Policy and Education, believes this is an indictment on the country's educational leadership. He's suggesting a return to the old curriculum to pave way for the right things to be done.
It's a very, very sad spectacle. Being what's being shown. The fact that the future of this country is receiving very little or no direction as to the most important tool that they would require to be able to sustain themselves or actually build a country. And the minister himself diagnosed the issue in part of the segment that he showed, that it is absolutely poor, egregious planning. Curriculum research and development takes many years to develop. And usually,
when you want to run a system like this where you want to change over into a new system, you would have planned already, maybe a couple of years in advance, what you needed to do. So it looks like either the ministry rushed into the whole curriculum planning thing, or they were misinformed about the logistics required on the ground, or they were just probably extremely clueless about it. Because it's a beggar's belief that you find the whole region, one of the poorer regions in the country, which still has a very high dependency ratio, a very high population of young people, having absolutely no clue as to how they are going to have their education for 3 years now, and possibly even for the next year or two. Because it means that even by the time the test would come, they would need even extra time to catch up with other classmates from other more privileged parts of the country. And these are the things that actually deepen the poverty divide, where the poor remain poorer, whilst others get a chance for the few opportunities that exist.
Barely 24 hours after claiming journalist Lateef Idris was not touched by any policeman, the Attorney General's office is aggressively pursuing settlement talks. State Attorney Nancy Rita Chumisi-Siama literally begged the court for the case to be put on hold. She made a similar request on Monday, but the court directed that the trial commences. Shortly after that, the attorney questioned the journalist's claim of being assaulted by the police, insisting no such thing happened. Lateef Idris and the multimedia group are in court demanding payment of damages for the brutal assault visited on the journalist by policemen. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins us from the High Court with the very latest. Joseph, was this plea accepted by the court?
Initially, the judge took the view that the trial ought to continue because she said this is a matter that has been outstanding since 2019. Specifically, the incident occurred in 2018 and the case was filed in 2019. So she was of the view that this is a matter that ought to continue. But later on, lawyer for the multimedia group, Samson Ladianene, informed the court that they were not opposed to settlements as they've always maintained, but their concern has always been the fact that the case seems to be dragging. So if this request is being made, they will leave it to the court to decide, but as far as they are concerned, they are open to settlement. So eventually the judge agreed to adjourn the matter to 19th of March.
Now, we also understand that lawyers for Lateef had some concerns about certain comments made by the police.
It had to do with one witness statement that has been filed by the police service. Portions of it indicate that Lateef was not assaulted, neither that he suffered from any medical complications. Now, Mr. Anyene said that that cannot be something that you can pursue settlement talks without taking an entrenched position, because the gentleman obviously is bearing the cost of medical treatment both locally and internationally outside the country, specifically in the United States of America. So the claim that he does not suffer from any medical complications is very problematic. At this point, the judge took the view that if the police wants to satisfy themselves about his condition, he's open to giving an order for a neutral medical practitioner to carry out that examination. And so he believes that the police should seriously pursue the settlement talks and resolve the matter once and for all.
So the matter has been adjourned to when?
19th of March, and the expectation is that the police will update the court on the progress talks with regards to the settlement talks. And if the court holds the view that it's not progressed to the level that it wants, then the trial will have to resume.
Joseph Akable is our court affairs correspondent. We'll take a break on JoyNews today. When we return, we'll bring you business on JoyNews today.
Let's do business now on Joy News today with me, Beverly Broom. The Bank of Ghana is insisting that the Gold for Oil program will help reduce the pressure on the country's foreign exchange reserves. It has also rejected calls for its cancellation. Head of Financial Markets, Stephen Opata, has been speaking to journalists in Accra.
Strategy for gold is gold for reserves and gold for oil. Gold for oil is coming from PMMC. Gold for reserves will come from the other mines and the aggregator programs. So that answers the questions. It's not just it's gold for oil and gold for reserves. So this is very transformational, and I urge all of you to give a positive narrative about it. Why should it be suspended? This is a good program. We've never done this. I've told you already that if this goes very well, we have a very sustainable way of buying oil products for the country. Not only that, but the pressure on our reserves will stop. We're able to build on our reserves. Who should stop this program? It's a very good program. We are talking about oil and gold. Yeah. Gold has its own peculiarities as far as correlations are concerned. So there can even be some diversification benefits. I will urge you to look at how oil behaves and how gold behaves. They are two commodities, but they behave differently. Gold, in times of crisis or times of shocks, goes up. Yes. At that time, you don't expect oil to go up. So I think that in terms of a correlation mix, it's not too bad. But that is not what we are even looking at. What we are looking at here is that we are using, Ghana is very rich in gold. The largest producer of gold, a developing country producer of gold, the largest. In 2021, we produced about 130 tons. That's a lot. So we have a lot of gold to back this program. This program is being driven by Dory gold, unrefined gold, right? So it's quite different from the gold for reserves, which is monetary gold that has to be refined into certain characteristics. This program is quite faster than that.
Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority will begin fresh prosecution of managers of some shopping malls flouting the electronic value-added tax law. According to the authority, its investigations have revealed that some businesses are issuing tax invoices without using the electronic system. This has led to the arrest of managers of ShopRite, China Mall, among others, who are expected to face the law. Accra Area Enforcement Manager at the GRA, Joseph Annan, has been speaking with Joy Business.
The China Mall, they were not issuing the EVAT invoice. Then Palace Mall, they are also issuing receipts with duplicate signature of the Commissioner General. And then we have Snyder Shopping Center, they are also issuing non-EVAT invoice. And then we have Fresh First Limited, that's Second Cup. They are also not issuing EVAT invoice. All these places are centered at Spintex. What we have done is to zone the taxpayers into areas. So today we decided to focus on Spintex. Tomorrow we'll be moving to another area until we are done with. We'll continue from area to area to reduce time and also save cost. So today we visited these places. And what we have done is to arrest managers of these companies, and then we have brought them to our customs head office. We are going to take their statement, and then the CID will continue with the investigation, and then we'll see what happens next.
So after taking their statements, like you say, the CID is going to do investigation. Whilst doing the investigation, what will be happening to them?
What will happen is that definitely they have been arrested, so somebody will have to bill them. But beyond that, we are looking forward to prosecution, because it looks like they are not taking us serious. Because we have just started a new process and already look at what is happening. Probably they want us to bar our teeth at them before they do the right thing, and that we shall surely do. We are looking forward to seeing some of them in court.
More business on Marketplace at 1 p.m. and also on myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Beverly Broom. Next is sports.
Let's do sports now on Joy News today with me, Muftao Nabila Abdullahi, President of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana. Kobnaya Boa has called on the Ghana Football Association and the Ministry of Youth and Sports to put an end to what he described as unnecessary expenditure of monies gained from Ghana's participation in the FIFA World Cup. Ghana qualified to 4 World Cups, but the country cannot boast of a single project from the resources generated from the country's participation in the world competition. Kobnaya Boa wants an end to this.
It's been 41 long years since Ghana won the AFCON. It's been 40 years since Kumasi Asante Kotoko ruled Africa, and 23 years since glorious Satsofuk dominated the continent. The statistics sadly indicate the rest of Africa have overtaken us as we now play catch-up. We need to work smart and invest meaningfully in our sport to hold the rot. Isn't it sad that in our last 4 World Cup appearances, we cannot boast of any major legacy project from the FIFA money, much of which were shared among players and officials? We certainly have to take a second look at the practice, for instance, of paying as much as $100,000 to some management members as appearance fees.
To the Shan tournament, where the Black Galaxies have been knocked out, former Black Stars assistant coach Gigi Dramani says that Ghanaians were over-expectant of the Black Galaxies. According to him, the team did not have the quality to be able to win the competition.
It all boils down to the expectations that we put around these phases. And the Chan is basically organized just to improve local content. And the local content means that it gives you the opportunity to also...
Media reports have suggested that Ghana's midfielder Kamadun Suleimana could be heading to Southampton after a transfer fee of €25 million has been accepted by his club. Chelsea midfielder Chachino is also reported to getting close to a move to Arsenal for a transfer fee of £12 million. And then Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea, quite close as well. Joy Sports will have more details as the transfer deadline day continues with activities from clubs across the world. We appreciate your company. Up next is World News.
Quote. On this first that's how we wrap up the bulletin this afternoon. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye.